All right, so I have prepared a basic project. So I created my virtual environment, created a database. I created the project here. Within the project, I created an app. I connected the app through the settings. So in my settings, I added the app here. I changed the database that I'm using to be the database that I'm using and Postgres as the engine. And I also added the static files directory. So yeah, I did those settings. I also created a static file, a folder with a CSS file and a JavaScript file. And this JavaScript file just console logs hello for now. I also created a singular route that goes to an index, and this index renders an HTML page, and this HTML page is just a header, and it extends a layout, which I used to connect my JavaScript file and my style sheets. So this is the custom style sheet that I wrote. I don't have anything in there right now. And this one is Bootstrap. So I added Bootstrap in there as well. And because it's a layout, I have a content block. And in my index, I'm putting everything that I want to be visible inside of my content block. Okay, so I just have like a basic one-page app. So if I start my server, this is my site, and that is it, something simple. Okay, so let me look at the topics that we were talking about. I believe one of them was routing. So let's talk about that. So routing is related to what happens either up here or when we make some sort of HTTP request. So when we put something in the browser, like I want to say /students is not defined. So that means that we would have to define it in our URLs. So anything that you want to be able to go to should be defined in your URLs. Some of them might be only like returning data, so they won't be a page. That will also be defined in your URLs. So in your URLs here, you are going to be defining paths that either render pages or return data. So maybe I have my, it's okay, my page paths, and maybe I have my API paths that return only data. So this we'll see a little later. Sometimes people separate them a little bit, but they're basically the same thing. It just depends on how you're handling your path. So let's say I want something that's /books. I have to put this in here. So when someone goes to /books, how are they going here? They are submitting a GET request to this URL. So anything in the browser right here is just a GET request. When we are using Axios or forms, sometimes we do GET requests, sometimes we only do a POST request, and it gets handled pretty much the same way. So we have a function that we define that will handle whatever request goes to that URL. So if I have a /books here, to have it defined or to have it do something, I would have to give it a function. So let's say get books. And then I need to go into my views. And I have to define something called get books. And this will take in the request that was sent in, because this again is a GET request. So if I say /books, Okay, the site can't be reached because I don't have anything there. I also did stop my, yeah, this is giving me an error because I didn't finish writing it. So let's just say I'm returning an empty string right now. Okay. So before it said that that route wasn't defined. Slash books. Oh, it's because I added the slash. So if I put 2 slashes, maybe it'll, yeah, that one will, oops, sorry. Okay, so the slash doesn't come before. So you just write here, and then I put a slash afterwards, and localhost slash books. Okay, so it identified it. I'm just getting a different error. It says string doesn't have an object, an attribute get. So basically, I'm not returning the correct thing. Here, I'm just returning a string. It's expecting some sort of response to the request. So when I said get books, when in the URL I put localhost slash books, it goes here. That means it's a request, an HTTP request that is going into our server. We have defined that that path will be interpreted by the views. We come in here and then we have to respond in an appropriate way. So a few of the ones that I mentioned were either rendering a page, which is what we're doing here, redirecting, which usually happens when you get a post request. So you handle saving the information to the database, doing whatever, and then you want to redirect to a new page. So that's when you would use a redirect. But in normal times, we can just do an HTTP response. For HTTP response, we can also do a JSON response. Let's see the difference. So HTTP response, when I'm typing it out, what it takes is just, it can take a string. So I can just send back hello. And if I refresh, it literally just sent back a string with the word hello. So if I inspect this in the body of my app, there's just a string with hello. I can send back a header tag with a string hello. And if I go back, now I see that this has changed. There's a header tag and it has hello in there. So HTTP response, you can either send a string back or you can send some form of HTML elements, and that will be rendered to the screen. That will be put into the body of the overall HTTP page that is being sent back. If we wanted a JSON response, so JSON response will take in data in the form of a dictionary. So let's say data, and this is some data. So let's see if this is proper. Okay, so it sent back the data in this form. So if we look at the network, this request, this was a GET request, right? So the difference is the content type. So when you're using a JSON response, you are sending back a response that is of type JSON. So it automatically parses the data as a JSON. You don't have to, there's something called serialization. So if you're using an HTTP response, you have to serialize this. And serialization basically means you're taking an object and you're making it into the form of a string, because since HTTP responses don't understand objects, but JSON responses will understand it because it's a JavaScript object. So you can just formulate your data and have it be in a regular Python dictionary, and then you can send it over JSON or as a JSON response, and you're able to get your data properly there. So this is why we would use it for APIs, for when your front end or wherever is asking for data, you would want to probably return a JSON response because your data is in a form that is easily usable. Because when you're grabbing it on the JavaScript side, it is also in the form of an object, and you can just parse through it using like the dot syntax and all that. Questions about these? Okay. Okay, so let's say this get books is just returning a response of data. In our index, what if we wanted to link to that page? What if we wanted to navigate to our /books page? There's a few ways of doing this, but the main way that I can think of is just an anchor tag, and an anchor tag is just basically a link. So with an anchor tag, I actually forgot if I have to have a closing tag as well. But with an anchor tag, href, I believe href, and then you set whatever your URL is going to be. So I can say books, and inside I'm just going to say go to books or get books. So if I go back to my homepage, I have a get books link. If I click on it, it goes to /books. It reroutes me to that page. So it's like any link I can put in here. So if I have just the stuff after the domain, so I'm not saying localhost, I'm not saying like a website name dot something. This is just the route afterwards. This will look within the context of our own website. But if I said google.com, I think I have to put HTTP. Let me see. Yeah, so I think I have to put HTTPS / I think. There we go. So that rerouted us to the actual Google page. So you can have actual regular links, or if you don't have this HTTPS / with the domain name, you're just putting, you're just looking within the context of your own website. So you saw earlier when I had just google.com, it appended it to the end of localhost. So this, it appends it, and now we're at this page. Any questions on routing or anything you might want to see or do that?
Hey, Zainab, I have a question. In routing like that, let's say we want to go back. We have a button that takes us home. What I've been struggling with is how to get my pathing to, instead of append at the end of our current path, to go back to a previous location without appending further onto the address. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's true. I have seen the slash before, but sometimes it like doesn't seem to work. I don't know.
Yeah. So let's do this. We'll create a new page. So this is for the books. I'm gonna just copy the extends part here. I'm gonna say we are it's just books. Okay. And I shouldn't have removed this. So this, do that. So we're saying just a slash, right? And it's not going to the right thing. It just appends it. So, oh, okay. So this page is not actually rendering. So I need to go back to my views. This get books is supposed to, instead of returning a JSON response, we're going to return a render. We're going to render, send in the request, and then books.html. Okay, so that should connect. There we go. So now we're on the books page. Click on this. So this one went back. Let's try to simulate something a little more different. Let's say this path is books slash author. Oops, what did I do? Okay, copy. This is a comma here. I go into my views. I create a method. Takes in the request. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, here we go. Request. And then we're returning a render to a different page. So we'll create a third page. I'm just gonna duplicate this one. How? Okay, just gonna copy. Paste. I'm gonna call this books author. And this one will go back to slash books. And then our books one, get author. So one will be slash books slash author. Render, oops, request. What was it? Books underscore author.html. Okay, so I hooked the page up. So get books, it goes to my books. Get author should now reroute me to book slash author.
I don't think you have an S in the path.
Books dot
No, I mean like in your
here,
URL.
I do have it, but I don't have the end slash. So here you can see that this one was defined, but I don't have the end slash, so I have to go back and add that slash at the end. Okay. So now if I refresh, this doesn't get books, it actually goes back to the books. Okay. What was the, okay, this is just styling stuff. It seems like it's working. So maybe the slashes, or
Can we have a book's author go all the way back to the index
yes,
when clicked?
books author.
Because my issue is when it's nested multiple times and using just the /.
Yeah.
Um,
So href. Have you tried with an empty href, like it's a base, or no?
I have, and that's worked.
Okay.
Yeah, you do a single
before.
slash. Do it.
So let's try the slash first. So books author, there's go home. Okay, that took me back.
Okay, yeah, well, thank you for demonstrating that anyways.
Oh, of course. Yeah, this is
I'll have to
sometimes the
compare it
routing.
to what I'm doing.
Sometimes the routing is a little weird. So if I go home, okay. So if I added, when I have the empty thing, it didn't work, but when I have slash, it went back. Let me refresh, sorry. Now it goes back. Okay. If you run into it again, maybe take some screenshots and we can try to figure it out.
Thank you.
But yeah, this is how you can do routing. You can another way to do it is to have a button. So let's say have a button. This button go to book author. So here on click, I can define a function here. You can have an A tag within the button, or I think an A tag around the button, and that will, you can just do this basically. So when the button is clicked, but that's not really utilizing the button's specific on click. So I'm going to use this pattern instead because we're going to be using React. So to get used to using buttons and click handlers. So on click, I'm going to define a function called reroute. And then maybe I'll send in, I think it has to be in quotes. Oops. Okay, I'm gonna say reroute, and I'm gonna send in like the home, the home route, so I can make it generic enough. So in my JavaScript file, which is connected, I have the hello down here. I can say, I can define a function that's called reroute that takes in our route. Mixing syntaxes again. And then there is the window. That's not what I want to do. We have the window dot location dot href. So this is pretty much just configuring what this window's href is at. So you can just reroute equals route. Let's see if this works. Gonna save. So when this button is clicked, okay, let me go. I'm home, go to author book. Oh, I shouldn't have rerouted. So I'm basically on the main page and I'm rerouting to the main page. So I can go to my index, I can route to books/author. And now this route is going to go into my JavaScript. It's gonna change the location of where we're at, and we should be redirected to that page. And there we go, book author. So what happened is it changed this location. This went to our server's URLs. It looked where it's going to handle it. And then our views, it was handled by this book author function. And then it rendered that page, which is why we saw it here. And if we go home, then we go home. Put the button in my HTML layout. Let's see what happens with that.
Real quick, for your JavaScript function, did you just how did you get the, yeah, I just missed the window location href.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then equals to whatever route you want it to go to.
Gotcha.
And that's all just a built-in right? The window location href.
It is.
No
Yeah,
keystrokes or anything,
nothing
right?
fancy. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's say we didn't want to just refresh this location. Let's say we wanted to actually do a GET request to one of our URLs. So let's say we wanted to do a GET request to here, and this path automatically renders that index page, right? So let's do that. So how would we do that with JavaScript if we want to make a GET request? What do we use?
Axios.
Yeah. So Axios is just a tool for us to make requests. That's all. So forms, when we were doing the post method forms, those are doing GET requests, post requests using, what is it called? Using fetch, which is like the built-in browser method. Axios is just JavaScript specific library that helps us do the fetch stuff, but with a little extra help. It's a little easier to use. So I'm gonna look up Axios CDN. Here we go. I'm gonna go back to my layout. I'm gonna add it above my JavaScript file. And why do I do this again? Why do I put it above my JS file that I create?
Is it so the JavaScript scripts have access to Axios?
Exactly. It's like doing an include. So we're including it before we actually use it in the main.js because we need to have the context of Axios. So now because I did that, I can do, so I'm going to comment out this window location. I'm going to say axios.get. I'm going to send in my route, which I want to be just the base route. And I think that's all I need to do actually. And let's see what happens. Then I'm going to print out the response. Response. And then console log. So yeah, where did we go here? Okay, so when we click on the button, we're gonna make a GET request. So let's check over here. Okay, so we made a GET request to localhost, and then this was our response. This is a preview of our response. And yeah, let's actually, I forgot that we wanted to go to books /authors or author. We do that. It didn't reroute, but it sent back the actual page that we needed to go to. So typically when we're making Axios requests, we're asking for data. That is generally how we're doing it. So let's say Axios display render. Okay, Axios display response proper way. Okay, so usually you're sending a JSON request, a JSON response. Okay, so yeah, for redirects, we're not going to be really using Axios. We're going to be doing, we can do GET requests, and then inside of the views, this would, instead of rendering a page, we would be returning a JSON response. So that is the more correct way of doing this. So if we say this is going to return a JSON response that has some data. So when we click on this page, we get our data back. So we have our data that is whatever we sent back. And then we have our headers, whatever is attached to this response itself. And there should be a way of using this render. So here it's rendering and that's what it's returning. So when we caught it on the JavaScript side, when we caught it on the JavaScript side and we were printing it out, it's just printing out the response itself, but it's not showing the page here. So there's probably a built-in function that allows you to send in this data as the new page. Maybe it's like window dot something. I'm not aware of it at this moment.
Can you show the views again with the JSON response?
Yeah, I commented it out. So this was just return JSON response. I'm gonna actually do this. So get books will be a JSON response. I'm gonna create one called show books. And this will be the page, the one that renders a page. That kind of makes a little more sense. So this one will return a render to, we have a request, and then we have a template, which was, I believe, books.html. So show books will show the actual books, get books will be returning this data. And that means that we would have to change what these are. So path book slash maybe books dot slash all would get the books. And then this one would show the books. And it's still called get books. Oh, I don't have the comma here. What am I forgetting? A comma here. There we go. Okay, so now I redefined books is going to show the actual books page, and then the books slash all will get my books. So if I go back to my JavaScript, this is doing a reroute, so we would want to have it be this. But if we say we want a function that gets books, so get books, we can just do this Axios call in there. So this Axios call is going to go to books slash all. So we defined it here to get our books. And we'll just console log the response here. And we don't have a button that currently calls this, but we can, if we want, just create. So this is our index, go to book author. Get books will be books slash all, right? Because that's what we defined it as in our URLs. Books slash all gets the books. It just returns a JSON response. It returns actual data. And we can have another link that does show books. This is going to be our books. We can also have another button. On click. And what was the function name? Get books, right? Wait, where is it? Main.js get books, which should be in camel case for consistency. Get books function. And I'm gonna say get books. Okay. So we refresh. This is our homepage. We have the difference between the get books and the show books. We'll see. So get books. I forgot the slash again. So this is an error that you will see quite often. I go back here, add the slash afterwards. Always get in the habit of adding a slash afterwards because you'll get some weird behavior sometimes if you don't. So book/all, this returned a JSON response. If I went back, show books is actually going to go to my books page, which is what I made it do. So it's showing books, we go show books, renders a page, get books, returns JSON data. So again, get books, we would want to call it from Axios to get our data and then do something with it or display, maybe like print it out or do whatever we want in it with it. So if I just go to /books/all, I'm not going to get a page, but I'm going to get data. This is what is being returned from this function. It's just data, no page.
Quick
Yeah.
question. In your URLs pie, what would happen is if you have like an extra slash in the beginning?
In this one,
Yes. Like
let's see. So the slash, if I want to go to the books, so /books, it's not gonna recognize it. I'm gonna have to add an extra slash. So if you have a slash in the beginning, this slash is the base slash that's always there. If you add one in the beginning, you have to add an extra one when you're in your routes. So that is why we don't add any to the beginning. We only add to the end because Django appends the slashes to the end and it expects them to be there as well. So here, now if I just remove this slash, I got the page.
I came across one of those errors where I was also utilizing the JavaScript from the static, and every time I try to move to a different page, it adds the static slash menu.js.
That's okay. Yeah, check that you don't have slashes in the beginning of your routes, because that could yeah, that could change it. Yeah, sometimes the paths are a little odd with the JavaScript files, which is good news. We won't have to use them for that long. We're going to be using React, so instead of our templates, so that'll be a little easier. Yeah, Yazid.
We on books/all, the main JS, when we click on get book, right? we get directed to the main JS function. We have a console log in our in a response, but I'm not seeing that in the console log in the web browser.
Yeah.
When
So
you go to that page.
So this console log only happens when this function gets called, and this function is only getting called from this button.
Yeah,
So-
when you click on that earlier, I didn't see that console log though.
Yeah, so let's look at it. So get books. Wait, I broke something. Hold on. Books, author. Okay, it's just not finding my CSS. Hold on. Is it the slash? I know we were just talking about the slashes. Okay, maybe it is. Let's do that. Nope. Get books. Okay, it's something with the button, probably.
Are you not supposed to put a parenthesis after get books?
No, because that's only if
okay.
you're sending in. I mean, maybe actually. Let's check. I thought that was only if we're sending in. Okay, now it worked. Yeah, okay. So now our data is in here that we sent in. And there's data twice because I actually named my data point data. But data is an automatic thing that is built into these responses. So whenever this is a JSON response, which has like headers, has the request, has also a data field, and that is the information that you send in here. So if I changed this to something, when I click on that inside of data, I should see something and then some data. So this is the information that I get back. Okay, we didn't get through too many things, but time is running out. Hopefully, what other questions do you guys have? We have a few minutes still before we take a little break. One sec. So how do we connect our input button to do it by ID? So where is it? Okay, let's say get books. We wanted to get a specific book, and all we would have to do, so let's say we have the context of the book in here. So our index.html has a list of all the books, and maybe every book has a button. So let me actually simulate this real quick. It won't take too long. So in here with our index page, I'm going to send in a little bit of data. So this is going to be called books. And this book, and these books are going to be, let's say, name. Name one. These books are going to be a list, actually. I just realized. Okay. It's going to get a little hard to read. So I'm going to say data equals this. And then I'm going to send in the data. Okay. So books. Okay, I set an ID, let's say ID 1, and then I have a second book. I'm not going to add too many. 2, ID 2. Okay. So this is attached to our index.html, and then we're going to send in this book information. So in our index, I am going to maybe loop through them. So for book in books, because now we have access to that context. I'm just going to make a button for each one. So button with on click, get books. For this one, it would have to be get book because it doesn't make sense to have it be get books. So get book, and then I can take in an ID. Okay. And this ID would be related to this book information. So book.id. So we send that into the onClick function, and then maybe we can display on the button the name of the book. So book.name. And then we do, we'll just close the button. What am I forgetting? Closing.
Equal sign by the onClick.
No, oh yeah, thank you. I was forgetting a few things. Okay, so on click, we have a get book function that will take in an ID. So in get book function, we have an ID. So we would have to have a route that takes in an ID. So book/all will give us all of the books. Let's create a different one that has book/ takes in an integer. And we call this integer ID. And I need to append the slash get, I'm gonna say it's called get book, just singular book. I need to define that in here somewhere. So define get book, request, and then we return something. We should probably return a JSON response. And in this JSON response, we can send back the dictionary of the book. Let's say this data was defined up here. All books equals this. So all books is a list of books. Data here, I'm going to send in those books, which is the same information, right? I just copied it. So all underscore books. So this list gets sent into the index, nothing changed here. But now I can say this get book is going to take in an integer called ID. We need to take that in. Then we can find the book in this list. So we can say for book in all books, if book at ID is equal to ID, then data equals book. So book is going to be the dictionary, right? So it's going to loop through these dictionaries. If the ID matches, it's going to grab this one dictionary, send that as the data, and then I can send it in the JSON response. So I can say book. So the name, the key is book, and then the actual here. Data. It's empty. Okay, so data gets used here, right? If the book ID matched, we grab that data and then we send that in. So if a book was found, then the book will be the data that's sent in. If not, the data will be empty. So now this get book here was for this route. We go back to our main.js. So here we're supposed to be calling books/ID. So here we just add our ID. I forgot this is JavaScript, so I need to do the backticks and $sign and other backtick. Okay, so we're going to go to this route with the ID that we clicked, and then the response, we're just going to display it. We grabbed our one book. Okay. So we have a button for each book. If I click on book 1, I should get the information for book 1. Let's check. There we go. We got book 1. If I clicked on book 2, we get our information for book 2. And there we go. Did that explain it? Did that walkthrough help, Yazid?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. I know we were rushing, but I think we covered some stuff. It was a lot, but yeah. Okay, awesome.